Alright, this is your Algebra 2 Midterm Review, Chapters 1 through 7.3. Remember, I told you I would download this onto my website, so you can go to my school website and you can download an extra copy, so if you need more practice. Alright, here we go. It is there, and so is the answer key. So we have number 1. It says to write an equation for x varies directly as the square of q. So what does directly mean? Does it mean multiplication? Does it mean division? Does it mean addition, subtraction? It means multiplication. So anytime you see varies, remember what did I say you have to do? So we're going to have x, and when you see varies, you're going to say equals a k. Remember, that's that constant that we're going to have to solve for later on. Directly means it's right on the top, so k times the square of q, so q squared. Now number 1b, it says p varies inversely. So what does inversely mean? Divided by. So we write p is equal to k divided by z, because it says p varies inversely as z. C says y varies jointly as a and b. Jointly, think of like if you're joint at the hip. A lot of people, that's a common phrase, joint at the hip. So if you're joint at the hip, you're attached to it, so you're right next to it. And in math, when you're right next to each other, that means multiplication. So if you're right next to each other, that would be multiplication. You're joint together, so it would be multiplied. So you say y varies, so y equals k, because you always have to have that k, jointly as AB, so AB. Then we have y varies directly as C, so let's do that part first. So y varies, so y, y varies, so we're going to go equals that k, because anytime we see the y varies, we want to equals k. Directly, so it means multiplication of as c, so multiplied to c. And inversely, and inverse means division, as d, so divided by d. Alright. Now, number 2 says that in part B, if p equals 8 when z equals 2, find p if z equals 3. So it wants us to take this equation up here and plug in the numbers. So we have p equals k over z, and it says if p equals 8, I'm going to put an 8 there, equals k, and now my z equals 2, so I have to find k, so I'm going to multiply both sides by 2. So this cancels out, so k equals 16. So I'm going to insert that back into the original equation. We have p equals 16 over z. And now it says find p if z equals 3. So now we go p equals 16 divided by 3. So you have 16 divided by 3. Or maybe sometimes you'll see it as 5 and 1/3, and that also equals 5.3. Alright, I will tell you that I would kind of practice this kind of this one, so if you need to, you could redo this one. You could actually do the same numbers in for your here you could do it for your y and b and a, and just plug in numbers and then solve for k and then find out what it is what y is, and just choose numbers and just practice. You can kind of make up your own problems, but I would definitely practice this one, and remember that your written part is on the first day you come back, so next week when you come back, the first time you see me. So I definitely practice that one. Alright, then we come to our properties. I'm going to move it up so we can see them all. We come to our properties, and we have here when you have A equals C, and then now we're going to multiply both sides by B, so that would be the multiplication property of equality. Then, see how we have here, it has A times B plus C, then it has AB plus AC. So what this one is this is the distributive property, because they multiplied both of them by that to get that. So that's the distributive property. So now we have here, I'm going to go just straight across, we have 1 times A equals A times 1, which equals A. So when you have this right here, A times 1, and that equals A, that is your multiplication identity. Because it's saying that when you look in a mirror, you're going to have A and you're going to get back A. So your multiplication identity is your 1, because you can multiply it. So this right there says that the multiplication identity. Now C, C we have here 2, it says 2 times 3 equals 3 times 2. Well, that's just, it's a community, so they're dancing, they're switching places. So it's a community, they're dancing around. So commutative is they switch places just like they're dancing. Now, if we have here A plus 0 is equal to 0 plus A, if it's just like that, then it's commutative, right? Because commutative is where they move around. So that's exactly what they just did, is commutative. Right? So if it's like how it is right there, it would be commutative. But if it says, okay, now we're going to say that it equals A, just like up here, then that becomes the identity. When it says that it's coming back and it's saying it's itself, so then it's the identity. So if it's equal to A, then it's your identity. So on F, it says 2 times 1/2 equals 1/2 times 2. Well, that's just commutative, right? But then, if it said that this equals your 1, then it becomes your inverse. Right, because that's the step from 1/2 times 1 equals 1. It's an inverse, and that's because that's the opposite. So over here, when it says A plus negative A equals negative A plus A equals 0, so see how it has a 0 at the end? Now that would be what an inverse would look like for your addition. Alright, now I'm going to flip the paper over so I can do the next set of problems. Alright, it says graph It says to graph the set x is greater than or equal to 3 and y is less than 2. So the first thing we want to do is we want to do our boundaries. So x, and since it's equal to 3, we're going to do a solid line at 3. So 1, 2, 3. And what type of line is it at 3? A vertical line, so it's straight up and down. Now how can I determine which way is going to be shaded? Is it going to be shaded this way, or is it going to be shaded to the left? So is it going to be to the right or to the left? How can I figure that out? Well, I pick a point. So if I pick point 0, 0 is greater than 3. Is that true or false? Is 0 greater than 3? That is false. So we always shade true. So that means we would be shading this way. I'm just going to put little arrows so that I don't have a eraser on this because it's a pen, so I don't want to do a whole bunch because we only shade the things in common. So I'm just going to do that so I can just cross it out later. Then we go to this one. Now we have y, and our boundary is equals 2, but because it doesn't equal it, it's going to be a what kind of line? Dotted. So y equals 2, so we have 1, 2, a dotted line. And now I need to know if we're going to shade above it or below it. So again, I'm going to pick the point 0 because it's not on the line. So 0, and now I'm going to put 0 is less than 2, right? Because that's the one we're doing right there. So 0 is less than 2. That's true, right? So since that's true, that means we're shading below this line. So since we're shading below this, that means that the thing that they have in common is over here. So this is where we shade. And I'm just going to cross that out so that we don't confuse that later. Alright. Number 4b. Now it says to graph 2x plus 3y equals 6 using the slope-intercept form. So the first thing I'm going to do is to put this into slope-intercept form by taking this 2x to the other side. So I have 3y is equal to a negative 2x plus 6, because I just subtracted this from both sides. Then what do I got to do? Divide by 3. We have y equals negative 2/3 x plus 2. So since we're doing slope-intercept form, remember this is my slope, or this is my intercept, because it's slope-intercept, so that's my intercept. So I'm going to go to 2, 1, 2, and I'm going to put a point. Then my slope is negative 2 over 3. So always remember that it's rise over run. So that means I have negative 2 over 3. So that means I'm going to rise negative 2. So that means I'm going down 2. And I'm running 3. 1, 2, 3. And I'm connecting my dots. Alright. Next it says 5x minus 2y equals 20. Now personally, if I had either equation like this and it didn't tell me which way to solve it out, I would always do it this way when they're both on the same side, because it looks and is easier. So what I do is I put in a 0 for my x. So when x is 0, I cover that up, and then I just have to go 20 divided by negative 2, which gives me a negative 10. And then I plug in a 0 for my y. So I plug in a 0 for my y. So what do I have left? I have 5x equals 20. So what do I have to do? So I'm expecting you, hopefully, that you're talking with me. So 20 divided by 5 is 4. So now I just plot those points. So I have negative 10, so I'm going to go by 2, so we have 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, so I have negative 10, and then it's 4, so 2, 4. And I have a point at each one, and then I connect my dots. Alright. Here we have write an equation for the line through 2, -5, and -3, 1. What you're going to do is find the first, you have to find the, I can't hear you, slope. That's right. So the slope. So we're going to go your slope, and how do you find the slope? I can't remember. You got to tell me. Well, I'll wait because I know that you know it. That's right. It is your y2 minus y1. So we have 1 minus a -5 over, what was it again? Yeah, your x2 minus your x1. So you have 1 minus your -5, and then -3 minus 2. So we have 1 plus 5, which is 6, and then -3 minus 2, which is a -5. So our slope is -6/5. And then we need our equation for our line, which they're giving it over here. So we're going to use that equation. So it says y minus y1. So I have y, and you could pick either point, but I'm just going to pick that first point. When you're taking the test, if this one was your multiple choice one, look down and see which point they used before you continue. But I'm going to use this first one. So I have y minus my y1. So we have my minus my 5, so it's plus 5, because remember that's just always opposite. And then we have a -6/5 times x minus my 2, because it's opposite. So there we have our answer. So now it says, what is the equation for a line perpendicular to D? So the first thing is what is a perpendicular slope through either one of these? So the perpendicular slope to this line over here, right? So we need a perpendicular slope, right? So remember that your perpendicular slope is always, what's the first thing it is always? Opposite sign. So now that this is negative, this one's positive, and then we want to have the reciprocal, so we flip it. So that's 5/6. Alright, so on your test, it might just ask you for just what is the perpendicular slope of, a line that goes through that. So make sure you would, you'd find your slope, and then you'd find the perpendicular by opposite sign, and then the reciprocal. So that's another one you might want to just take a look at again by the next time you see me. So here we have y minus y1. So again, I'm just going to use that first point. You could have used either one. So it'll be y plus 5 is equal to my 5/6. Sorry guys, 5/6 times my x minus the 2. And that's our answer. Because that's our slope right there, and then the opposite of each one of those points. Now hopefully again remember that this looks like the vertex form. The only difference is there's no square, so hopefully that will help you to remember this formula. Or make sure you put it on your 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper. You can put it on your 8.5 by 11 sheet. Remember, you get an 8.5 by 11 front side, and it has to be your work, not mine. So if you want to write this all out, you can. Also, if you want to see the next page, just go to the next video.